Welcome back, everybody, to the Outsider Podcast. Today we have Frank Smith on. He is offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, and more importantly, he's a great friend of mine, great friend of Jay's. And the reason, I would say the reason I'm sitting in this room today, because Frank introduced me to Jay back in, I think, 2011 when I came down for a Bears game. But we're excited to have you. So let's kick this off.
You trying to get a Zen sponsorship here, or what's happening?
I take them in and out of my pockets.
Wouldn't be
I figured I'd lay it up there. I mean, obviously you guys did not get the memo about Aloha Friday.
Hawaiian shirts and Zens.
It's Aloha Friday, boys.
This cool, calm, collected demeanor brought to you by Zen.
Yeah, just
Frank could use some caffeine. Frank could use some down in Fort Lauderdale in Miami.
Yeah.
Hawaiian shirts, that is.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Zen. I've seen those before.
Oh, yeah.
But caffeine and nicotine makes the world go around.
So. Well, we're in free agency draft coming up. Had a hell of a season last year, bud.
Yeah. It was,
ended a little shorter than obviously
wanted to. But for 2 years in a row, getting to the playoffs and, with the younger team, it's just invaluable stuff for us for the future and just, you go to the playoffs and, all right, it's 82 degrees when you leave Florida and it's minus 20 whatever degrees it was in Kansas City. It's like, okay, well, what'd you learn? It's a lot easier to play in 82 degrees, so why don't we win a couple more games? So, but yeah, I mean, we have a great group of guys. And
once I saw the weather forecast, we put everything we had on the Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, I was cold in the press box, like wearing a sweatshirt, just trying to keep extra warm.
Is my guy Dan Marino back in the building?
He's always in the building. Man.
Oh, gosh, I love it.
I mean, I literally was going to Runway 84 and hit up Dan. I was like, it was like Friday or something. It was like 2 hours late and I hit up Dan. I'm like, hey, do you think he was like, yeah, I got you, dude. He's the best.
He is the best.
There's no one
He
better.
would come in, when I was down there, he'd come into meetings and just sit there. We'd be watching game tape or defense. All he wanted to do is throw seam routes.
Oh, yeah.
Just four vert.
Oh, yeah.
Some sort of four vert. Don't care how we get to it, and let's hit some seam routes.
Nothing has changed.
He might be the best to ever do it. So
yeah, I mean, and then just to me, it's like for a guy like Dan, and then for how he was playing career, and then just to see him on the daily.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just. I mean, talk about a guy who's just so relatable, so humble. Just it's like,
gosh, he's incredible.
Well, because I'm like sitting there, I'm like, this is Dan Marino. I'm sitting there talking to.
Yeah.
He's like, and he's concerned about my day, and I'm like, I'm just glad I get to freaking hang out with you today. He was the best.
He was so nice to, because Sailor was young whenever I was down there, but he was so nice to my boys. Like he would come up and say hi anytime. Like, he saw him on the elevator one time.
Yep.
Shook their hands, took pictures, like went out of his way. He's the best.
Yeah, about as. For a guy who could be whatever he wants to be, the fact in which he is so good to everyone that he meets, I mean, it's a true testament to who he is as a guy. Like, he's just a real dude.
Let's back this up just a tad bit. First of all, I know nothing about football compared to you two, so I'm going to interject whenever I feel applicable, which is hopefully never. So you're from Wisconsin.
Yep.
Whereabouts in Wisconsin?
I was born in Milwaukee, and then grew up on the north suburbs, and then when I
didn't know you were from Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, you know,
Sunshine State, gorgeous.
I was in Chicago. I mean, by the way, I drive about an hour from where I grew up.
Really?
Yeah. So just north side.
Yeah.
But I moved when I graduated high school, so I moved to Ohio, and I went to school in Ohio. So like
Miami, Ohio.
Yes,
you and Big Ben.
Oh yeah.
What was growing up in Wisconsin like? Did you play a lot of football growing up? What sports were you into? What was your childhood like growing up there?
It was kind of outdoor sport. We lived.
Were you hockey?
Yeah, we played we had like a creek kind of behind our neighborhood, and we'd all go play on it. Out of bounds are kind of when you fell through the ice. So like you kind of kept like told you, Tommy, don't go over there. Don't chase the puck. And then you just kind of like chill. Like got a lot of guys snowmobile. My parents didn't have one, but like you just kind of outdoor stuff and started playing football when I think it was sixth grade. And then kind of started just doing that. And my high school wasn't very good at football or when I first got there. And then my sophomore year, got a new coach, and then we kind of started to turn things around. And, they've been kind of successful since then. But yeah.
What high school was that?
Cedarburg High School.
In Wisconsin.
Milwaukee. Yep. So right next to, it's like on the north side, there's this big suburb called Mequon. Like that's where a lot of like the Bucks and come to the pro players. Like it's kind of the suburb that's kind of a little bit closer to ours, so you could still get back to the city. We were the next one north. So, I mean, grew up like right on the edge of town, so we had land and stuff like that. So didn't feel like you're in the city. You kind of felt like you're in the country. So, and then when I was 18, the weekend after I graduated high school, we moved to Ohio.
And because you got a scholarship to the University of Miami, Ohio, or
no,
just randomly?
It was I kind of had to plead my way into college to play football. So it was Indiana and Miami and UK all said I could, because I looked at kind of schools near like Cincinnati. And I grew in college, so I was like maybe just under 6'2", and I was like maybe like 245 pounds. So I kind of had to fight. My grandpa played football at Indiana in the 30s, and he was really connected with some people there, helped me out. Miami, I just pestered the hell out of them. So then I got walked on to Miami because they had a.
How do you pester them? Like you're sending like VHS then, right?
Oh yeah, man.
That's what I had to do.
Yeah, sweet VHS tape. With like a nice.
You had to have like a double VHS so you could like TV and record it and like transfer. It was a fucking process.
Well, and so I did it myself.
And then to mail those damn things, like.
Oh yeah, I sent out.
It wasn't cheap.
Well,
because you're talking about like a VHS.
They weigh like 2.5 pounds a pop.
Exactly.
It's like this brick is going to get me to college. And because the thing was, I actually wanted to go to the Naval Academy out of high school.
And, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think Sam might have, but I'm not sure. It's still debatable.
Going to the Naval? No way. I am not officer material.
Well, I don't know if I told you that. Like, so I was trying to go to the Naval Academy. There was a retired admiral in our town. Talked to him. He helped me out with a lot of stuff. There was a state representative. I was getting it all.
Why'd you want to go to the Naval Academy?
Delusions of grandeur of, okay, go there.
Did you watch Top Gun too many times? Like, what did you watch too many movies? Like, what I don't understand.
Dude, it was. I watched that movie, like Charlie Sheen, when he jumped off the bridge. I was like, thank you. I was like, hell yeah.
The best recruiting video ever made.
Why does this resonate with me? And the guy up in the crane with the 50 cal called God.
God, come in, God.
I was like,
God here.
This seems like something I would enjoy. But then I got like a knee injury, and I literally had no idea what it was. So me trying to be honest, wrote down like on the forum like what it was. I think I put down I had an MCL like tear or something like that. Well, coming out of Wisconsin, you're a nobody. They're like, why am I going to take this kid in 1999 who's got like massive knee injury? I talked to the trainer who's helping me. He's like, that's the wrong letter you should have put on for it. Didn't hear from the Navy anymore after that. Kind of.
What was wrong with your knee?
I had something happen. Like I played through it, but I didn't know what letter it was because it was one of those. But I was trying to be, I'm going to be factual.
Yeah, I'm honest here.
Yeah. So
big mistake.
There's a big difference between that first letter of ML at the or CL at the end. So I was like, okay, I screwed myself. So, but yeah, I guess it wasn't supposed to happen. And then Miami was great because they had a history.
Fake it till you make it, bud. Did no one tell you this?
Yeah. Well, it's like, coming out of Wisconsin, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be honest with that. Like, why would I tell them the truth? And like, probably not the plan I should have done. She just said, yeah, I'm great. What do you want?
Most officers are complete nerds anyway, so it probably worked out for the best.
Yeah.
I don't think you would have fit in.
I'm like, what's wrong with these guys? Yeah, and then went to like Miami had a history of like walk-ons coming in there and contributing good on scholarships. So I was like, okay, well these guys seem to, and they have a plan for it. And then the year before they were like 10-1 or something like that. So I was like, well, they're winning. So
was Ben there? Ben was there.
He's a year younger than me.
Okay.
So I came in as a freshman in '99. He came in 2000.
Who was the quarterback the year before when they went 10?
It was Mike Bath. So he's now coach at Indiana State, but
Sycamores.
Oh yeah, but they were really good on defense. And that was when Travis Prentice was.
Were they in the MAC then?
Oh yeah, still in the MAC.
Yeah.
It was a great league like back then because there's some like recruiting wasn't what it was back then. So you had a lot of guys that maybe from smaller areas.
Wow, they would fall through the cracks.
Yeah,
and then go to the MAC and just ball out.
Because you had so many guys in like those late '90s, or like Jason Taylor was.
Well, it was before like Rivals and 24/7 and all these recruiting camps and everything that happened. Like it was, like you said, it was fucking VHS.
Yeah, and if I'm at some small school and somewhere in the Midwest, and Miami, when you go visited it, you're like, wow, I want to go to school here, and they were winning. I mean, they had a tradition, and at the time, I believe, were top 15 in winning percentage in all of college football.
Yeah.
So you're like, why wouldn't I go here? And it was just a kind of story of, like everything. It's like if you have your team, and then you have this component that is going to add your edge because it's a bunch of guys that are really trying to prove themselves.
Sure.
Every year you're having these guys that are earning it. Like they add edge to your team, and like that's what that program always had. And after I left, it was like Frank Solich got to Ohio University, and he brought that component from Nebraska because that was something they really did well as a walk-on program. Well, it turned
they had
out
a shit ton of walk-ons in Nebraska.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean,
what position did you walk on as?
I came in as an offensive lineman, and then I came in as a center. I played left tackle on my senior year of high school. Played that for a year. Then I kicked out I played guard inside on the offensive line. And then my first year, I grew 2 inches and put on like 40 pounds. So, and I got it was like all of a sudden I finished growing. Then the next summer, I got really, really strong. And the best thing in college.
What happened?
I just grew, and I literally I never trained that hard. In high school, you don't really know. So I got into program, and I finished growing. So all of a sudden, the body's going, okay, we're ready to take this on.
Yeah.
And
support it.
And just hit it. And then the best thing about college football is when you make massive strength gains, the rest of your time, they test you for steroids. So it's like every year I'm getting tested. I'm like, well, sorry to disappoint you. This is pure, actually just working at it. So
really?
Oh yeah. I got tested every year, and I'm sitting there going, sorry to disappoint you guys. But actually I did this the old fashioned way.
I don't even know if I ever got tested at Vandy.
Well,
I wasn't doing steroids, so it didn't really matter.
I went from,
drugs. So.
Well, I got there, and I can't remember what my numbers were, but then I
definitely drank too much.
The summer of 2001, I squatted 650 pounds, and then it jumped astronomical. I gained 100 some pounds of all these strength gains.
Yeah.
So clearly, something was up. It's no, I just actually finished growing. So
yeah, I just hit puberty last year. So
I'm a real man now.
Here. Just got hair in my arms, coach.
It's I don't know, my voice isn't cracking anymore. That was it. And then I got a scholarship for my second year, and then I started the last 3 years, and then my senior year was me and my one good friend Terrell were the captains. So and we were really, really good that year. But
what was your record that year?
13-1. We were 10th in the country. Only lost to Iowa in the opener, which was a great learning lesson. It was one of those moments. They ended up 8th in the country, and we were 10th. And then that was before the BCS, the Boise stuff. Mm-hmm. So we were right before it. So if it was modern day, we would have been that team because we were the 13-1 or 12-1, and we were the team that kind of was oh, maybe they're good.
Yeah. And you lost your first game?
First game of the season.
And then you won out.
Won the rest of the way.
I like it.
Beat the doors off Louisville in the bowl game. And then that was the next year they were really good. They had all Ellis Dumerville was on that team. There's a bunch of guys way back when. That was 2003. In 2004, I think they went 12-2 or something.
I'm guessing was one of the Brahms probably a quarterback then?
It was Stephon LaFleur right before them.
Stephon LaFleur.
Yeah.
Lefty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, it was that was before they were Louisville. They kind of I think they were still in Conference USA at the time, and they that was the beginning of their run because Bobby Petrino I think just had gotten there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Wow, that's dating myself. That's like 20 years ago.
I just said, like I know exactly who Bobby is. No fucking clue.
No shit. I was like, wow, that was a while ago.
That's the second time I've heard Elvis's name twice in the past 2 weeks. We were down in Miami a couple weeks ago, and someone came up and does a bunch of real estate with Elvis. But
really?
Yeah. So
is he down there?
Yeah.
No kidding. Everyone's down there. Oh. Like, I mean,
everyone's either in Florida or Nashville or Texas these days.
Yeah, or if you're a retired baseball or golf, you're in Vegas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because all the courses and stuff. But
because we're talking college, I'm going to ask you a quick question about college. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the new NIL stuff?
So
is it ruining the game?
So I went back up I was actually in Ohio, and I went up to Miami, Ohio to actually, because I've just been on the West Coast for all these years in Florida, so I hadn't been back in years. Mm-hmm. I went up to talk with the offensive staff and just kind of, talk about a bunch of things. I was listening to them. I understand a lot of it, what's going on. The challenge will be, though, how do you keep a team together? Like, you in theory could be bouncing around every year.
Yeah, and with the portal, these players
in and out,
like mercenaries.
So it's like you could go 4 years and you could be in 4 different schools because you get different deals. Sure. I don't know. So like that'll be interesting because then the first time they actually get to the pro level, that might be the first time they're actually going to be in a place for consistent years. Yeah. I don't know. It's to me, I'm going. I remember back in the day. We didn't get anything. Like at Miami, we didn't even get. All we got is the scholarship, and we didn't even get off-campus housing. Like you lived in the dorm, like it was old school. And so to actually guys getting compensated and stuff, I get it. There's a lot of money, but it's just the dynamics of what football. Like some of my best friends from my college years are like the guys that I know because you start out at nothing and you earn it together and
for 4 or 5 years.
And like back then, like they would literally try and like mess with you to see if you'd make it. Like, like morning workouts were just, someone screws up and they're going to try and break you.
I remember those 5 a.m. workouts and like someone was late or, someone missed like 1 rep. And I think half the time they would just make it up, like miss the rep. Everyone outside.
Oh, totally.
Everyone outside, we're running gassers. And it's like, really?
But now, like everyone outside are going to do that. I'm like, I don't know. Well, I don't like this. I'm
transferring. See you later.
So you say the portal. Break that down to me, right? So how can someone jump from college to college? Those 4 or 5 years, however long it takes you. Break that down because I don't understand that.
I'm not that savvy on the rules. For you,
it's been 15 years, so I was just getting filled in.
I'm pretty sure that if your coach leaves, you can definitely go into the portal and be like, "Hey, I'm going to go to a different team."
I think you can do it kind of whenever you want.
I think you can too.
So,
like at the end of the season, you can decide whether you want to stay at that university or go to another one. I could be totally wrong on this, but I'm somewhat close. So these guys are like literally changing teams. Like back whenever me and Frank were playing, like. If you wanted to transfer out of an SEC school, you had to sit out for 2 years before you played.
Yeah, like
again,
there's a penance for transferring.
Yeah, like you couldn't just be like, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm transferring. If you transferred from SEC to SEC, it was 2 years. If you transferred from SEC to a different conference, you had to sit out the next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and now these kids are literally just
out, and then they're at the next place playing.
Yeah,
and then now they might be like, okay. I'm
like if you're on a lower echelon team and like you played well, you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to an SEC school or a Big Ten school or someone that's gonna pay me a higher NIL.
And that's what they were saying was happening. Like, okay, you play at the Mid-American Conference, you play well, you have production. Well, why would I go and maybe go out and get a high school kid where there's variables that you maybe can't control? Well, I know what the production I got.
So I'll go get him. Known quantity here. Let's just pay him a little NIL money, and he can come to Tennessee or Alabama or
and we're not 3 years away, or essentially 3 years away from seeing this product in the NFL.
Oh, like the guys who only know that way?
Correct.
Yeah. Basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe 2.
Yeah, probably 2.
Have you guys started talking about that at all?
not like
some of these dudes are taking a pay cut.
Well, yeah, I mean,
really,
yeah. Like say you're a 3rd round, 4th round draft pick, and
you were a 5-star coming out.
Yeah, or you were at 5-star coming out, or you were trying to decide, do I go pro or not? So all of a sudden, someone kicks you, a number, but then you get drafted in a round. So you think, I'm going to get drafted in this round, but you get taken in the lower round. Well, you could, in theory, make less money. So which is nuts. But
it's wild.
That is. Dude.
I don't know. Like, I wouldn't say there's like many people that are talking about it. I've thought about it a lot because for me, as kind of, the way life goes is like you got to have a plan. And, what do you do if you, inherently you get a guy who's really been on a team since high school for 2 years in a row, and there's just a lot of transition. Well, there's going to be an acclimation phase to being a part of a team that now you can't leave. Mm-hmm. Like we have your contract for 3 to 5 years.
I think that's a great point. It's a great conversation. Like some of these guys, like they don't know how to be on teams. They don't know how to build camaraderie and like trust and be like, you know what, I'm gonna take a step back and be selfless for a minute and be a part of this team, because their whole upbringing for the past 4 to 6 years has literally just been take care of myself, win or lose, just trying to get paid and go on to the next team.
Yeah, and then when a challenging situation hits, okay, well, if the people who are in your world are saying like, well, this isn't right, this shouldn't be happening to you. Okay, let's go explore opportunities. Well, you have a contract. Like you can't go anywhere. Yeah. Like, well, I don't like it. Well, you're gonna have to deal with it.
Don't really care. Figure it out.
So to me, I look at it going like the whole scenario is that's where relationships and building trust is going to be really important, because you might be the first time that there's consistency in their career for maybe since high school. So when things happen, if you don't have a relationship with your players and you don't know them, well, it hits and they're blindsided. It's like, well, if you have the relationship, you can explain, here's why it's going on, and you can help them through it, as opposed to, what is this? Mm-hmm. So which goes back into, core principles of why you're in coaching. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
It's going to be extremely interesting to see how this plays out in the dynamics of the individual as they show up to the NFL and locked into a contract and cannot leave a team.
Well, I think the NCAA is going to find out in the next 3 to 5 years they made a tragic mistake by doing this.
Well,
but I don't understand how they put unwind it and put it back in the bottle.
Well, what I have a feeling is going to happen, because I remember it was 10 years ago. I remember Northwestern, the football team, there was like this of trying to unionize and stuff. Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
The minute but then got squashed because the Northwestern pro players were like, no, you don't want to do that. Yep. The minute you do that, now you're an employee, and employees can get fired.
Yep.
So the thing is, I think it's things are transpired, but then at the same time, like, okay, now however it plays out, well, I don't know how a college kid would like it. All of a sudden, week 5, you get cut, and then now we're going to sever this contract. I'll be curious.
Contract, because I mean, what's happening now? To your point, is like the school to the player is kind of a binding contract, but the athlete to the college isn't binding anymore. Mm-hmm. So at some point, the school has to take control and be like, "Hey, we want the same rights as this kid does. If he can leave us at any point, we should be able to leave him at any point."
That's where I'll be curious to see how it plays out, because
I haven't heard that. That's a great point, Frank.
It's just one of those where I go, okay, like what did the wise karate master say? Well, we'll see. Yeah. Like, what I mean? Like, okay, what's gonna happen here? Well, we'll see. So hey, we're getting paid in college. Yeah, we'll see what happens next, because something's fixing to happen next.
Has to. Can't continue down this road.
Yeah. I mean, the greatest college coach,
he basically just said, I quit because of this reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't want to do this anymore.
Well, because it's when you're in coaching, or just really, what is the joy of being a part of the team sport? It's being a part of the team. You miss when you're done playing, when you're done at all level, you miss the guys you went through the fight with. Like, that's what you miss. You don't. it's not like the good times of when you always reflect on the stories of the people you shared the journey with. And like, well, now you had a journey where it was with different people. Like you're not going to have the same stories of reverence, 20, 30 years later. You're going to be, who was I with on that team?
Sounds pretty lonely.
I mean, that's where like the greatest thing I like is 20 years later from you finish college and where guys are at, like how their life is going, or guys who've had like some struggles and, being there for them at times. Like that's what it's all like about when you reflect on your teammates. Cause it's like 4 to 5 years of your life where it sucked a couple, like they're trying to see if you're, like Jay said back then, if you got it, like you're going to be someone they can count on at crunch time. And like, those are your guys. And, even at the pro level, like there's the years when you had that team, like those are the guys you're like, yeah, those are your dudes. Cause you to make it to the playoffs and to win, to get to like that is really, really hard. And to get through the struggle of a long, 16 game season, 17 now, like you got to count on some guys. And those guys you always keep your relationship with.
It's a long grind.
After college, did you go right into coaching, or what'd you do right after college?
Oh, well, I was in Finance 301. I was a finance major, and I was in Finance 301, Dr. Cares. We were taking like a midterm, and I'm sitting there. I got my financial calculator out, my charts, all this shit, and I'm sitting there going like,
TI-80 or whatever it was.
I'm like,
T83, T82.
I was close.
And I'm sitting there going, this sucks. And like literally the business building kind of overlooked this like drive, and I saw there was a frisbee golf course at Miami. I saw these frat guys like walking like they didn't have a care in the world that day, and I'm looking out going like, you lucky bastards. And I'm sitting there going, wow, what am I doing? Like is this what the rest of my life is going to be? Just sitting there, just miserable, just trying not to like screw up whatever, knowing you're going to bomb an exam because I hated it. And then, not that, the teacher was great, but I just hated the material. And then I'm sitting there, I went down to my college coach and I said, I hate my major. I don't know what I want to do with my life. Like, you got any ideas? And he's kind of looked at me like, any ideas? Like, what should I do? Like, and he goes like, well, you ever thought about coaching? I was like, you think I'd be any good at it? And he's like, yeah. And so my college coach was Terry Hepner. He's passed away. He's the head coach at Indiana and passed away from cancer, but he was great because he was so many things foundationally for me. Every day was just optimism, like, what are we going to do with today? Like, it's your choice. Like you are in charge of the attitude you have. And so it always resonated with me. I'm like, yeah, today doesn't have to be awful. There can be challenges, but I'll choose my response to what occurs. And he was like, yeah, you should get in coaching. So I switched my major to organizational leadership, AKA business management, which was fantastic.
That's what I got my degree in.
Oh, dude, it's like, yeah. What do you think about this scenario? I think it sucks. You're right. It did suck, Frank. Great.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Great interpretation of the situation. Like, yeah, okay. I got this one down. And then I made it and then senior year, graduated. And then I stayed at Miami to be a graduate assistant, making $8,000 a year, which is, $800 10 months out of the year. 2 months or fend for yourself, guys, to figure it out. So I like work summer camps and stuff, but I still remember like those days and having to make ends meet, because then I did it for 2 years. I was on offense my first year at Miami. Then my second year I went to defense.
What on defense?
I was working with the D-line, so just kind of and it made sense to me. Okay, so just flip your brain. What did you do to block people? Okay, now how would you beat it? So like give insight, like, well, it
makes a lot of sense. I don't think people do that as much anymore. Coaches when they're kind of starting off, I'll be like, all right, if you want to be on offense, all right, it's fine. But take a analyst side on the defense for a couple of years, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just to see how they operate, just so you know all the little things that make defenses tick.
And to have an understanding of the things that put absolute paranoia in them.
Oh, exactly.
Like, how are we going to stop this? And I'm like, why are you guys worrying about that one? Like, I don't even think they ran that play right. I'm pretty sure I don't think you're going to see that show up. but it gave just perspective. And then, when I left to get my first full-time job at Butler University, making $32,000 a year, and I thought I had made it. I'm like, I actually get paid 12 months out of the year. I'm rich. But it was really, the experience of between the 5 years playing and the 2 years. Like I was telling the staff when I was back at Miami, just how thankful you are for the experiences and the people you met, because that just was such a spine of who you are as a person for your career. Because just, you were trained for, it's a winning program. You're trained, you're never out of the fight. You always, like, you're going to find a way. Like the belief, the confidence, like, even when the game ends, we just ran out of time. Like you didn't really believe, like, we're not going to lose. Like, what are you talking about? That's what losers do. So, and then you have a coach who's extremely optimistic. So it's just, you're going to find a way. Like believe in each other, find a way, build that camaraderie with the chemistry. So like it's just, and that's where when I went to the first job in college, like they were the opposite and they hadn't been winning. And you see the other side of the coin, because my high school program won, college program won. I'm like, wow, what an education of like how hard it is to win. And then you have to build it, and it's all about people and just assimilating. So it was like things I took for granted in Miami, and just the application, because it follows throughout so much of the rest of my career, is just winning is hard.
It is hard. Early on, whenever you're kind of just grinding and, you're there till 2 o'clock in the morning, breaking up film and doing all that bullshit, were you ever like, you know what, this, maybe I should try something else?
No. I loved it.
You're all in?
Oh yeah. It was like, never once I'm like, I really want to go sell something. Like, man, that'd be great if I could just get someone to buy this insurance. No, it just never, like I saw success comes that you got to pay a price. It's just, It's like I watched my dad, because my dad was, like when I was young, I'm the second oldest, so I'm one of 6. So like I remember when I was little, he would work his day job at Allen Bradley in Milwaukee, and at night he would teach night classes at UWM to get enough money so we could have a glorious meal of fish sticks, because that's what we could afford. So like to this day, I hate fish sticks. So because it's like
I haven't had a fish stick in a hot minute.
Oh man, it was like I see that thing, I'm like, no.
We had those fish sticks too as kids, like the little they look like the mozzarella sticks, but
they do.
But they're fucking fish sticks.
Yeah. I like if you
as a kid.
Oh gosh, it's an absolute.
You might be poor if
you had fish sticks as a kid.
If it's like if the day of the week ended in day and you're eating fish sticks every day,
they smelled like shit too.
Oh yeah, but like, okay, how can you eat
the tartar sauce?
Tartar sauce. Like no, you put that thing in ketchup.
You put it in ketchup.
Tartar sauce. We can't.
I feel like it came with a thing of tartar sauce.
I wasn't eating it. I was drenching it in ketchup just to somehow take the
and like
taste and smell away.
And my mom had like four kids under the age. We're all 2 years apart. Oh, wow. So she's got this herd of these little kids throwing fish sticks at them. Put more ketchup on it. And I'm like, but I ate it. You eat it. And like,
yeah, you either ate it or you didn't get anything else.
Exactly.
That's just it.
But there were only so many fish sticks that were going to be on that damn thing. So if you wanted to, like, I'm elbowing my brother, like, like consuming fish. But now it's at a point where I see fish sticks. And I'm like, I'm full. Like, you win. I would tell you where the secret base is if you put a meal of fish sticks for every day.
I'm going to make both of you fish sticks one day. And they're going to be just as horrible as you remember.
I tell you what, I do. Sam made these. They're basically a knockoff of like fish fillet sandwiches, which gave me some PTSD of fish sticks. But it was actually like really good Alaskan, like halibut or something like that. But I was looking at them, and this just happened maybe a month ago, and I looked at them and I was like, God, this is like fish sticks.
I couldn't eat fish. I would not eat fish until I got to New Orleans, because then it was fresh. I'm like, Oh, okay. This is
different.
This is a little different. Okay, like we can remove this out of the criteria. Fish must be fresh. If it's coming in a fried form, I'm defaulting back. Like, nope, I'm good. Like, I'll take something that was a land grazer instead of this thing that was taken out of whatever and thrown in a fryer with bread, and now put ketchup on it. I'm like. Because like tartar sauce now, I mean, that's the gourmet condiment. I would dip it in this thing that is delicious.
I mean, I think we got ours from the frozen section and the Swans Man. Swan Man?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe you put this Swan Man.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Swan Man.
The push-ups they have?
He would come by, the big yellowish truck. Oh, yeah. Everything frozen in that damn thing.
It was like it was like the Brinks truck of food.
Yeah,
like, I mean, it would show up and be like, "Oh, what's in there? I heard there's ice cream."
You know about the Swan Man? You get the Swan Man?
The Parmesan chicken from Swan Man. That was the go-to.
No, you know what I really liked? I liked the chicken cordon bleu.
Oh,
from the Swan Man.
We weren't
eating high on the hog there, boys.
Gosh, no kidding.
You got to make it known I was a fish stick kid as well. So with ketchup, I know the feeling.
There you go.
Yeah. It's like
Ben's in on it.
We can all relate.
Yeah, the 80s and 90s were pushing fish sticks still out of us. It's like PTSD of like, no, is that a fish stick? No, it's mozzarella. Okay, yeah, bring it on. Like, fried cheese is way better than a fish.
So you coached at Miami for 2 years, and then you went on to
Butler.
Yeah,
the basketball school.
And
so for 4 years.
Indy.
4 years.
Yeah, I lived downtown Indy.
With Bulldogs? How do you know they had a football team?
I know it was 1AA non-scholarship, so they played
non-scholarship.
Yep. So it was like it was kind of like the Ivy League. They had their deal, and then we were kind of the next level. So it was kind of a league that was kind of a hybrid of, kind of some Division III principles of financial aid, but however, it was very good schools, and it was a lot of the schools that had Division I basketball, the rest of the athletics, but they wanted to keep a football program. So it was like University of San Diego, Dayton, Drake, us, Morehead State, Davidson, Jacksonville. So it was this, and now I think it's even bigger, like Marist, Stetson, it's grown. But it was really unique because, I mean, when I got there.
Wait, they all played each other?
Yeah. Oh, but.
So you travel that far?
Oh, yeah. How do you.
Like, let's talk about that.
Oh,
how the hell did you get there?
Oh, you want to go play University of San Diego from Indianapolis?
Yeah.
You, as a player, are getting up at 4 a.m.
Taking a bus to Chicago?
We are taking a bus to Indianapolis, the airport, and we were flying commercial and throwing all your stuff underneath. Oh, because there's no bus, there's no charter.
You're connecting somewhere.
Oh yeah, I think we connected in Denver.
Yeah.
So literally, like,
you're leaving a couple days before.
It was so we're playing on Saturday. We're leaving Friday morning, and Friday morning super early, and then you get out to, like, we played. So
hope everything's on time.
Oh yeah,
fingers crossed, guys. The game got a game at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, game's at noon. Actually, now it's at 7. They got delayed in Denver. I mean, that first year we were playing University of San Diego, and that was Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
I mean, they were really
were good.
I mean, it was Josh Johnson was the quarterback. I mean, I think he played last year in the NFL or 2 years ago. And they had David Bakhtiari, his brother Eric was the D end, and I tried to slide like 4 dudes at him. He still like gave us hell. Like, they were a very talented team, well coached, and that was his last year at San Diego. Well, coupled with the fact that we're trying to build the program and we're flying commercially through Denver to get to the game. I mean, it was like, for me, it was a good learning lesson of, whoa, I used to be on that team that would kick the crap, out of the other teams in the conference. And the greatest moment was then, like, I was the O-line coach, tight ends coach, video coordinator, assistant. Like, you have to do a little bit of everything at that level. So it kind of teaches you, don't take anything for granted. Like, so now, I remember for 4 years, I'm having to do all these things. So now at this level, I'm going, you're not above anything. Mm-hmm. So make sure it's right. Get it done. Because if you count on someone else doing it, what if they didn't do it? So be on it. And then, this place might be whatever. Like, I remember the school was a Division I football program back like a long time ago. Then they moved to Division II. They were really successful. But then to keep the Division I status, the rule they had to have all sports to be at that level. So they went down and they struggled for a while. But they had this old stadium that was it was a bowl, And as time went on, it went from a bowl to like a letter J to like a letter I, and then it was like down to this little sliver was left with the press box, and then the field they had to move it. So the press box wasn't on the 50; it was on like the 35, and it looked like it looked like it had seen better days in the 70s, and it was 2006, 7. And we had all the stuff, and it was like, okay, you can either make an excuse about it, or you can be like, this place may not be the best, but it's, it's ours. So own it. Like, don't let things be an excuse. Like, let it be our rallying cry of, we'll be the reason why this gets changed. And we went, the year before we got there in 05, they were 0-11. Our first year we were 3-8. Then we went 4-0. Then we went 0-7. We learned a lot that year, but 4-7. Then we went 6-5, and that was the first winning season in like 10 years or something. And then we went 11-1 because we qualified for the we didn't make the tournament or the playoffs back then, but we got a bowl game with the NEC conference, who was like a 30 scholarship Division I league, and we beat them. So we had 0 scholarships and they had 30, and we beat them.
Pretty impressive.
And then 2 years later, then I left. 2 years later, that team on the recruiting class won a conference game, and they were one of the first teams that went and played in the playoffs from the league. So they got a bid. And it was really cool because you saw the recruiting class. They built a new stadium. They did all this facility work, the recruiting class from it. They were able to, they went through 2 years, and then that class, they had 2 years where they won back-to-back conference champions and made the playoffs. So it was like one of those moments you're like, wow, that's what all the hard work was for.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was I mean, you want to talk about, because it's Indiana, so like we're down to like, so we were not beating anyone recruiting that first year. Like, I mean, clearly you could tell our facilities needed some work, but then we had a good school. Guys really loved going to school there, but okay, how do we create an edge? Well, it's like we start the first year we're losing in recruiting sometimes, but we had a niche. Like up in the region in Northwest Indiana, just outside of Chicago, guys wanted to come to school there. So kind of spent our time in areas where we could tell guys wanted to come.
Valpo, Chesterton area.
Oh, yeah, man. Lowell.
Maryville.
We had a gold mine going through Lowell. I think we had 3 years in a row of like all their good guys that came down. And then I started realizing Cincinnati. I recruited Cincinnati. I recruited Ohio. And then Cincinnati, in our second year, I got a kid out of Lakota West. And then he loved it at school, and he ended up getting all of his guys to transfer from other schools. Like we got our one D end who was a beast, who was a full ride lacrosse scholarship to Robert Morris in Pittsburgh. Well, he wanted to play football. He came in and then we got another guy who went to play Division II at Grand Valley State. He turned down his full ride to come down to us because like they want to play together, and like they liked going to school in Indy, and they liked just everything about the campus, and the crew of guys really kind of built everything. And then we got a couple guys that were from small schools in southern Indiana that like, coming up to Butler, like they're like, hell, this is a big city, and like this is a big deal to them. And we had a good pharmacy school. So we get some guys that want to go on to be pharmacists because they could really make good money after college. And then we started rolling because we had this young class, and they were challenged them.
I don't know if anybody from my high school went there or not.
I don't think so, because I remember Southern Indiana was in my recruiting area, and I kind of it's gonna take a lot. It's gonna take like 3 days to get between a couple of these schools. So I went down to Columbus.
Okay, I was farther south than that, though.
And then my dad's mom was from Seymour.
Okay,
so she's a Shields family. Like they're kind of all over the name down there. Their names are all over the place down there, and I kind of had to earmark my spots because I had Southern Indiana into Ohio, and then that was just a lot of turf to cover. And in Indiana,
schools are 45 minutes apart.
Oh, it was nuts.
Yeah.
I'd go down to Bloomington, Columbus, Seymour, and I was trying to. And then you're not getting any help with financial. Like it was the aid packaging, so like some areas you just knew it was gonna be tough to get guys enough money to come to school there, even though they'd be good players. So and then we took off. I mean, it was some of those guys because they really loved ball. Like you didn't have a lot of the resources, but you just
that's the only way you're gonna get them to come.
Exactly.
Leave Butler.
Yeah. So, and then we obviously were winning, and then I interviewed for the O-line job so I was offensive coordinator at Butler. I was the line coach. I was Mr. Whatever. In my last 2 years, I took over as a play caller. The good years. No, it was more of just like it was a byproduct. The head coach called it. I could take stuff off his plate, and it was a really good learning experience. I interviewed for the O-line job at Eastern Illinois. I lost out on it to an older guy who was an alum, and it was the greatest thing that happened because if I would have taken that job when the Saints called, I would have been a bigger pay cut than I was ready for, as opposed to like
Was Jimmy there then?
No, it would have been
you would have missed.
It would have been earlier? 2010. Maybe he was there. I don't even remember.
He might have been there.
It was a friend of mine was on the defensive staff, and we recruited Ohio together. So when they had the opening, I believe if I remember correctly, their O-line coach was killed in a car accident. And then when I interviewed, like the defensive guys, there's some younger guys. They brought me up because I knew him from recruiting. They ended up going the head coach and older guy. They went with the guy that played for him. And because then I remember I was all bummed out because I thought it was my op to get because I was Division I AA scholarship football. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And then through the NFL combine being ran through, being an Indy, being at Butler, I got to meet a lot of people and got introduced to a bunch of guys. And, every February, build relationships. Because the thing, I don't know, I guess I was different. I didn't realize it, but I never really worried about okay, what am I doing? They don't care what about I'm doing. I want to know what they're doing because I want to do their football. So I'd ask them a bunch of questions whenever I got an opportunity to meet guys. Why are you doing this? And then back then you didn't have the opportunity to watch the NFL as regularly as you do now because of the technology. So whenever you could get anything, you'd watch it. And I would watch a bunch of it, ask questions, and then start getting access to the New Orleans Saints through Aaron Cromer, who was a Miami of Ohio alum. And so
that's how you guys are.
He didn't coach me, but he was an alum.
Okay.
So the strength coach that when I had as a player, he left after 2005. Sean Payton hired him to be the strength coach for the Saints. So in 2006, I was hanging out with Dan, and Dan was like, hey, you need to meet Aaron, because Aaron and him, Dan hosted.
Where's he at now?
Aaron?
Yeah.
Buffalo. And then Dan's with
line?
Yeah. And he's been there now 2 years. And
easy job.
But Dan
you might want to let somebody loose so that the big guy can just run around and throw the ball.
Dude, Josh is a really, really good player.
Yeah, he is. I love watching him play.
Likewise.
Anyway, sorry.
And then so I met him, and then when he got down to New Orleans, he was like, why don't you come down here and actually spend some time? And then I did, and I literally was like, I got access and just kind of listened to him for a full day, just tell me more. And I just literally filled up my notebook.
That was a hell of a staff that Sean had down there for a while.
It was awesome. You mean just the guys who went on that, to really further, because it really was I didn't know any better. And then so I got around all them. They're all very helpful teaching. They had their system. They communicated really well. They were very innovative at the time, back then, because it was they had Drew. They were evolving the offense, really to kind of fit, what he did well. They're kind of, I think that was right. That was year 3. So they were really good on offense. They're still building the team, getting the parts, getting the pieces of the players together. And just, you could tell they were, bless you, they were problem solving. You could see now, all these years later, oh, they were doing what we do. You're trying to stay on cutting edge. So you're just solving problems, trying to put guys in the best positions possible.
Well, there's only so much you can do on a football field. So was it just more formationally and matchup situations they would try to get into?
And
there's a new play that comes about every once in a while, then everyone copycats it. We all know that.
It was more of okay, this now after just my journey, knowing the true origins of the West Coast, just the guys have been exposed to, it's the illusion of sophistication, trying to make sure everything, the packaging of everything, so the presentation is very, very similar to the defense.
Sure.
So how many things we can do that come out of the same presentation,
same look,
and then they were doing that, and they were really building it, through obviously what Drew did well, and then just every year okay, what more could he do? You know, having different packages of plays, you know, being able to go, him calling out the line, you know, obviously adding to the variables of multiple plays, and he can put them in the right play. Like it was, you know, the big one I took it as is they were also doing huddle, no huddle, the speed from the huddle to line, like an attack of the defense. Like so many core principles that I now take as like the only way of doing things. Mm-hmm. That was the way they're doing it. And you could see it. And I was like, whoa. And I went back, took it to college for what you could apply. So you're going, okay, I know these principles, and you're going, okay, and you take it, you help make your team better. Next year I went down and got an even longer time down there, brought it back, and then that was the year after I spent a week down there during training camp. I was like, oh, no wonder, because it's all just what are you exposed to. Like, so when you grow up in college football and you only know college football, you know, you get a lot of cliche answers from older guys. They don't give you really solutions to things. Just this is what we do, and they're like, but that doesn't. If it doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't like register. I'm like, why? Like that doesn't seem logical. Mm-hmm. So when you get down there, you know, Sean and the whole staff, like everything was logical. Like, well, this is why we do it, and why we did it, because 10 years ago we learned this lesson, so we built upon this principle. And you're going, eureka! No wonder why they're successful, because when something occurs that doesn't make sense, they'll say, we'll gloss over it with whatever. Like we solve the problem, and the solution to the problem will, you know, maybe yield another thing that you have to solve later on. But yet the players are hearing you go, they know if you're going, that doesn't make sense, whatever. But they know like, okay, that makes sense. And they know that you're taking the time to help them. And I could see that, and I took it back, and then that was when I was successful. And then the next year they had an open position that was, I was going to take a pay cut to go to the NFL from Butler. And I was like, I'll be there on Monday. And I literally drove my freaking Nissan Altima from Indy, like down there. And I was like, this is football heaven. And, you know, you're doing a lot of stuff that, you know, like my first year, I'm sure it was awful. Like, and I asked,
what'd you get paid your first year?
Oh, I thought I took the job for $30,000. And I really ended up, I remember Mickey Loomis was like, you know, yeah, we'll make it 35. And I was like, yes. Cause I remember at that time I was scheduled to make like $39,000 at Butler. I'd made 35. I'm like, that's only $4,000. Okay. It's just a couple $100. But I took it for 30, and I was just like, we'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. So, and it was football heaven. They had just won the Super Bowl.
You basically just lived at the facility anyway. So you just ate.
Oh yeah,
showered. Like, you were a tenant there.
No, yeah, I was basically a squatter. like, don't you have a home? Like, you know, like a
no, you didn't pay me
don't
enough.
You have homes? Yeah,
I got a car.
Yeah, I have a car and all this stuff. But like, you know, if I stay here, I can get this much more stuff done. And it was like football heaven, because they had just won the Super Bowl 2 months before, and I got to walk in and just like they had so many things that were so innovative, at least to me at the time. And I'm going like, wow, because like their packaging of plays, how they get to things, Drew's ability at the line of scrimmage, how fast they went, the players they had were just so.
What year was that?
2010.
Drew and Sean have been together for how long?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was going to year 5. And
it's about when it gets fun.
Man, was it fun. And like,
I think year 1 through 3, you're kind of figuring each other out.
Yes, and you're trying to keep your core guys together as you're building, because you're still, what's the right collection? Like they were kind of like, and they had a lot of success their first year by going to the NFC Championship game, and then you know, then they had two years where they were close, and then the 4th year they won it, and I got there and the next year, and it's like the only way I can really like kind of explain showing up 2 months after a team won the Super Bowl and you're like the only new guy is like, picture the greatest party of all time in college, and you walked in the morning after.
Like, the sober one.
Yeah, like this looks sweet. When are we doing it again? Oh no, we can't ever do that again.
I'm never gonna do it again. Sorry.
Yeah, you're like, but we have to. And like, well, maybe we will. But like it took a lot of things to get to this level. And I'm like, please tell me we're doing it again. And like, And then actually my first year there,
special teams coach is what they brought you. What they bring you on as?
I was a coaching assistant, so I was on offense. So the NFL staff back then was a lot smaller than what it is now. So it was like we had our position coaches, the offensive coordinator, Sean, and then we had 2 coaching assistants who helped the offensive staff, and we kind of just did everything. Like
we broke down film. I mean, drew up plays.
Back then, we stuffed binders, draw the plays.
Oh, that's
break down the
because see, whenever he came to Chicago, we started going to iPads. So but before that, it was all just paper.
Yeah.
So you would get like these binders every week. I mean, you had your massive master catalog binder, but then you had like your week by week binders for a team. But like it was all paper, and someone would have to draw up those. So Monday, Tuesday, the staff is like getting their plays together. First and second down goes in on Wednesday. Third down goes on Thursday. Red zone on Friday. So by Wednesday, whatever Sean and the OC have figured out their plays, Frank and whoever he's with, like they've got to draw them up get them all drawn up, get them printed out, make sure there's no mistakes, and get them in binders. So Wednesday morning at that first offensive meeting, they're passing out binders. First and second down plays are getting installed, and they can't fuck it up.
Yeah, and and my first year, like I'm figuring out this computer program, and I am awful. Like I am just like I'm pissing off Cromer because I'm like fixing it, and
slant is this big.
Yeah, you're like I told you to block this way, and I'm like, I suck. I'm the worst. I'm like terrible. And I remember the one more we're playing the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. We got done with our meeting really late, so I'm drawing all night, and he gave me a correction, and I don't know what happened. I didn't get it right. So the more he's like. So I had drawn it all and give him his packet for the presentation. I stuffed all the binders. And all of a sudden, I sat like 4 chairs down from Aaron. All of a sudden, I hear, like we're in a team meeting, I hear, fuck. And I'm like, look over, and he's just like red penning the shit out of something. And I'm going, uh-oh. And then he comes back, I told you made this change. Why didn't I get this change? And I'm like, shit. And then I freak out, go make the changes, come back down. I blew Reggie Bush's mind because like we're handing out the binders right as the offense goes in. And as I'm handing out the binders, I'm handing a swap out piece of paper. And Reggie goes, no, I just got it. I know, we got to switch this one. No, I just got it. I'm like, yes, I did this all last night. and right now I realize the problem. So I got to swap this thing out. And he's kind of looking at me. What? And I'm going like, listen, man, this is on me. Let me do it for you. Like, just
let me help you out here.
Yeah, let's help you out. And it was like, because you just had so many things, but it gives you an appreciation for the level of deep detail and all the little things you got to do to like, all right, my job may have been, like a veteran player is going to see the play drawings and they're going to go like, yep, got it, and put it down. And they're going to look at those pictures from all of about, depending on the position, they might look at it for all of about 15 minutes. And they're like, I got it. I'll figure it out. Like it's in October. I got it. Like I know, I hear the play call and I'll execute because I just know the concepts. So you're up all night drawing all that stuff, and they might look at it for 15 minutes and they put it down. You're like, look, just look at it one more time, please. Give me some validation. But it gives you like, that's your guys, that's your group, that's your body of work. Like
that was Frank's worst nightmare. I would just fire through them as fast as possible just to find mistakes.
You're like
that does not fucking surprise me.
Nope. Good.
Yep.
Who drew this one?
This personnel group should have been, I think we said it was 12 Georgia, not just 12.
Fuck this one up.
Change them all. What else is wrong in here?
Guess we didn't stay up late enough last night.
Oh my goodness. And then you just sit there because it would be like,
what an asshole.
Oh, it was true. It was all like,
it was all good fun though.
Because like the run ones, you had to like block the defense, and you had to draw the offense, then block the defense. Like a lot of times the pass game drawer just draw the route. They don't draw. Like I had to draw the defense, and I had to know what the defense were blocking. So it was this layered but it was just, you learn principles, and if it's not right, okay, well, where'd you screw it up? And you're constantly, so like my first year would be like a miserable experience. By like my second year, by my 5th year of doing it, like literally I had that machine down till I could be done with the whole thing like in about 4.5 hours. And then I'd be done. And then I'd be done and I'd be like, what else you got? But then you could get more, but you learn the process, but you learn then you don't shortchange the process. There's a way it has to be done, and it's important. like for me, if we're going to ask them on Sundays to be at their best and execute, well, this thing that might seem small better be right, because like, how can we hold them accountable if we're not accountable? And if it's wrong, like all they want you to do is go like, yeah, we screwed it up. My bad. Like, hey, we need to be better at that. Okay. Well, just don't be don't be dick when it's, it's reversed. So, but those are things that you just learn along the way that I got to do it with unbelievable group of guys and the coaches were a great group of guys. The players are, like John Vilma, Drew Brees, like Jeremy Shockey, the linemen like John Stinchcomb, Zach Streif, John Goodwin, like Jari Evans, like Carl Nix. The O-line, they were about as good as it gets in the league during that time. Like the two greatest guards in the game, the unbelievable quarterback who's an even better guy. Like Drew is one, just to watch his process. Like for me, a young coach, how meticulous he was, but then everyone like Marcus Colston, Lance Moore, like Devry and Meach, like just everyone was so on it. Like, and then the defensive guys were all like, just John Vilma, Will Smith, Malcolm and Roman, and then it goes on and on. But that's when you just know you had a great collection of guys, because
it's weird they didn't win more.
The 2011 team, like Drew even says it, like that was our best team. Like we blew the doors off all those records, and the Giants won the Super Bowl that year, and we beat them in the Superdome. We put 40 up on them, and like we had a 20-point win over them. And then we had to play away at San Francisco.
Well, it's like it's the same thing that you guys are gonna run into in Miami. Hopefully it changes. But like whenever they had to leave,
yeah, it's hard.
They had to go up to Chicago one year, and it's just going from that dome and that comfort and that stadium to an away situation. Just I don't know, it was different.
It was and like we went out to San Francisco and we were -5 in turnovers, and we were still winning though, or we were -5. I think they were -2, so we're -3 on the day. And with a minute 20 left, we were winning. That's how good we are. Like Jay knows, like statistically, we have 3 more turnovers than them, and for us to be winning with a minute 20 is statistically.
The other team has like a 95% chance of winning.
It's nuts.
Should be
really.
And we were winning, and if
plus two in turnover battle is like a 95% chance of winning. I could be off on a few percentages, but it's high.
It's like I was
90.
My dad always asks, like, hey, what do I need to look for? I'm like, okay, if we start turning the ball over, okay, it's gonna be a tough day at the office. Yeah. Just start anticipating, unless we can create some to turn it back. So like my dad, like, just growing through business, his deal to be, he went from, like I was telling you earlier, to being an executive to be a president for, really like 20 years. Like he understands a lot of the principles of the industry. He understands principles to be successful, but yet the window of the NFL, everything is just so. It's just like in business, it takes about a year to diagnose a problem, and then another year to correct. Things just take longer. Where like, okay, you go through 4 months, 5 months. Okay, well, what do we need to get better? All right, change. And then you make constant change. Like so, you have really 6 months to prove your worth for the other 6 months. So there's just constant turnover, and you have to be heightened awareness. So like that always to him was like, whoa, like your margin of error is way smaller. I'm like, but that's also why, compensation's so high, and also why the product is in demand, because there is this heightened sense of urgency to perform. So that's like, you feel that from players, you feel that from coaches. That's why you get a product that, people enjoy watching, because you can feel that sense of urgency to be successful.
Yeah, there's only 8 home games. It's not like basketball or baseball or hockey. Like the fans only get to see that product for a limited, sacred amount of time.
Yeah, and
that's it.
And as like the player, like and the staff. Like you need to maximize those times. So like it's that heightened sense to just everything. And
the NFLPA is, NFLPA is garbage. So like, as a player, like you can be replaced at a moment's notice, no matter how much money you make. Doesn't matter.
It's the same for, like, you know, coaching. I mean, I always found, like, I tried to always base my career upon, you know, the measuring stick for me at the end will be the guys who I helped. And, you know, the you know, like we're talking about, like, Jared Cook, when I got to Oakland in 2018, he said, "You're one of the few coaches that I know that still keeps in touch with your former players. Like, you actually talk to them." I'm like, well, that's a damn shame. Like, it should be that way because I spend more time with you guys than I do my family for 6 months. So, like, why wouldn't this relationship transcend the rest of, like, our lives? Like, why wouldn't I see, hey, how you're doing after you're done playing? Like, like I'm not, you know, when you're in charge, like, you know, you live to serve the people that you're around. Like, I'm investing in you, you're investing in me, and I'm not just here to take. I give back, and I should be giving more than I ever take. Like, I have a hard time ever asking anyone for anything, but yet I want to give towards the guys that, I mean, the players are giving you so much. I mean, and they're out there trying to be their best, and, you know, it's a very combative game. So, like, they're, you know, go through it, and the older you get, the harder it is to come back, and they're doing all this work, and you're trying to help them. Like, it's you should have a relationship where it's like, you know, the family, kids, the hard times that exist when you leave these walls, because the relationship shouldn't end when you, but that's not the way a lot of people do it. But it's the way it's the only way I know how to do it. So I don't.
Well, I think that's why you've lasted and been so successful in your coaching careers, because you do it that way. Because, I mean, the other guys just maybe they try, maybe they can't do it, maybe they just don't want to do it. But, like, that's why your career is going to continue to keep going, and why I'm sure there's so many players that would rally and say great things about you because you do it that way.
So I talked to Zach this morning. I called Zach Miller this morning, and just want to ask him a couple questions about Frank and get some insight from, you know, one of your former players. And
so after the Saints came to Chicago, met me and the dysfunctional group that was Chicago,
and the rest was
what
history.
Year was that?
That was 2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was because 2014 was when Eric and the guys came up to training camp when I was in New Orleans, and you were going to drop out of the airplane to try and meet us.
Yeah,
because you were working somewhere, and you were.
No, I think that was Eric's plan to jump in. Did they jump into the stadium?
No, like they drove from Virginia Beach, and you were off somewhere, and you were going back to Virginia when we were going. So like they said, like you were trying to see if you could get clearance to jump out of the plane on the way back, because you were going to have to fly out and then come back 8 hours, and it wasn't going to work.
I remember him trying to set something up like that, but then we ended up meeting on the golf course.
The next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it was after
the golf course got soft on us.
Because then you could. It was.
I love golfing.
Yeah, the golf was kind of the activity that allowed us to hang out with our other friends, Jim, Jack, and Jose, for that day, because we had a blast. It was just like.
Well, Eric's like, hey, I'm gonna pair you up with my. You guys are related in some way.
No, just like it was like.
I thought you married somebody or he married somebody, and there's like 7 ways of Kevin Bacon. You guys.
It was a really weird connection that was just kind of like, okay, and then I'd never met anyone in special forces, so I was more curious. Like, wait, you do what? Wait, you're Charlie Sheen? I was like, finally, like this whole naval academy thing that was an epic fail. Now it's all coming back around. So I was more of like, I was curious. I asked a million questions because I was kind of like, how does that even work? How does day to day go? And he was telling me about things and all that. And then we just kind of kept in touch. And then I was kind of like, well, the farthest I ever got east, because I was living in New Orleans at the time. And I was like, okay, we're going to be in West Virginia for training camp at the Greenbrier. And he's like,
that was tough.
Yeah, it was really arduous living.
We heard about you guys doing that, and we were at Bourbonnais in those dorms, and I was like, you got to be shitting me. Oh, these guys are going to a 5-star resort, and we're in cinder block dorms.
Yes, I got the next year. I was like, this is a little different than the Greenbrier. Where's the restaurant? Yeah. Like, where's the golf course when we have the day off? Like, what are we doing here?
That's when Drew was like doing like they were doing videos, like fun stuff, like after practice. And I was like, yeah, it looks like they're having a fucking blast. Like I'm literally just going to the cafeteria of the school.
Of the small Christian school in Downstate, Illinois.
Nothing against Bourbonnais. I love the people down there. It was fabulous.
It's just very different than a lot
very
of
different.
It wasn't the Greenbrier.
It was not the Greenbrier.
I mean, literally, the guy who owned the Greenbrier, I think now he's the governor of West Virginia.
Makes sense.
He literally had the resort, and he blew up the mountain next to it and built this world-class football facility.
Yeah.
I think he spent like $40 million or something, built this place. And
he was like, hey, just come. Whoever wants to come.
No,
really?
It was
no. He was like, I'll build it. They'll come.
It was Sean. Ryan Palmer was. I don't know how him and Sean like caddied for him at the Greenbrier deal, and he met him, and the guy was like, "Well, I've been trying to get a team here. Would you guys be interested in coming?" And Sean was like, "Yeah, well, I'll build it. Just give me 2 months. I'll have it ready." And literally, he blew up the mountain and built it. It was there in 2 months. Like when we got there, like they were just finishing it. I mean, it was brand new.
Field of Dreams.
So Eric didn't tell me, that exactly who you were when we got paired together that morning. And so we end up, I mean, this early, it's like 7, 8 in the morning. Sure. He's like, hey, I'm going to pair you with Frank. You guys will get along, just trust me on this one. I said, okay. So we're getting a golf cart, crack a beer, have a cocktail. I forget whichever one it was.
Probably both.
Yeah. And then
you don't like to limit options. You got to have plans.
And then he's like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I work with Eric. I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a football coach. I'm like, cool. So we get through the first hole or whatever. And then I asked him, I think I asked you, like, what do you teach? And and he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, well, aren't you, like, I assumed as a high school football coach, maybe. I'm like, well, do you teach and coach, or do you just coach? He's like, no, I just coach. I said, for who? He goes, well, I'm about to go to the Chicago Bears. I'm like, oh, fuck, you're a football coach. And I'm like, well,
you don't teach science on the side.
Or maybe biology.
I have an at-home chemistry set we could go mess around with. Make some things out of Play-Doh. And it was literally, because the guys came up at the Greenbrier, and then I left I went to go to Chicago.
Which had to be your most challenging coaching experience.
I'm telling you, like, but it's like, so I got asked a question. They're like, okay, what adversity have you gone through in your career and all that? And I was sitting there going, like,
Chicago.
I don't even know. Like, I started thinking about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, well, I never looked at it as adversity. I always looked at it like kind of, the challenge to whatever the day is. And, I think it's just, again, it goes back to like my college coach. Like, he was very optimistic. And it's like, I started going through like different things. Like in high school, I asked a lot of questions. My high school coach didn't really like it, so I had adversity through that. Like I had to dealing with that situation. Then going to college, I didn't get heavily recruited. I had to walk on. I had to earn it. Like I went to like other guys that were my age, got Division I jobs. I had to go down to Butler, but that was not a great job when I got it. But like you make the best of it. It's like your outlook to how you're going to approach situations is kind of, like you can manifest this narrative into reality, or you can let it be, rule you like, oh, this stinks, whatever. Okay. Yeah. Then it's going to, that may be what it will always be, as opposed to, okay, what are the challenges for today and how am I going to get better? So like that whole group in Chicago, like, and we were, I think what were we, like 6-10, 3-13, and 5-11. I mean, we were not good, but I learned so much from all those guys. Like in those years, they were really like application of so much. Like I'm having to be a first-time position coach in the NFL, and I'm solving problems with them. And, like Zach, like that was, his career didn't really go the way he was hoping it would. But like those 2 years we had, I mean, were like his best two. And a lot of it was because I realized through talking to him and just listening to him, guys everyone tries to do carte blanche, like teaching, like, okay, let's make it easy for myself because I'm teaching you all the same. And then therefore I covered all things. So therefore you've been told. So now it's on you, as opposed to like, okay, well that removes all accountability. Like you're not investing in them. You're not helping them. It's like, okay, what do you do well? how do I maximize what you do well and make sure I put you in situations to limit what maybe aren't your strengths, but what's like, how do we build that up so it's going to not be detrimental? No one ever taught him really, like, he knew how to get open in the passing game. He has natural feel and instincts, which you can't.
Sure.
People just feel, sometimes they feel space and they realize their periffs, like, if I do that, someone's going to be there. So they just take, but like, he didn't know blocking for his skill set because he played quarterback, and it was, so kind of just worked with him on problem solving skills. And then, or when, the greatest thing that I always thought as a coach we can do is, like, a player's got to execute. Okay, I don't play. I stand there and I'm observing, watching the process, helping to tweak it. What do you see? Like, so when a play happens, okay, comes back. Okay, was it good? Okay, awesome. Did this play out this way? Yep. Okay, great. Okay, something doesn't go what you were anticipating. Okay, what happened? Why? And you got to frame it in a way where you're trying to lead them to the solution to their problem. You know, like
without them feeling attacked and
correct,
being judged.
Correct.
For not doing their job.
Correct.
Which is a tough thing, I think, for coaches.
It's like, so it depends upon, you know, the environment you work in.
Sure.
So if every day is 4th and 1 at the Super Bowl, okay, well, that makes it very result driven, and yet you feel the stress every day to, all right, that play might be the reason why you don't make the team the next day. But in reality is you're building a process that is sustainable for high level performance. So it's like, all right, I know this practice day is not going to be the end of the world. However, you want to have that sense of urgency to the performance. But if the result isn't what we were looking for, why? What's the lesson we can learn to get better? And I mean, which are the principles that we obviously apply to in Miami. But like back then, I know if the result wasn't that, okay, I'm helping them learn and teach them. So I'll take if my boss is not happy with the performance, I'll take it and I'll deal with the blowback, but I'm not going to push that stress on them. I'm going to keep the process going to help them get better. And like, that was just something that just seemed natural to me. I'm like, I'm going to get them ready. I don't care about it. Like, they're the one thing that matters. So let's put all effort that I have in my time for their limited career. Because I mean, a player's career ends. It's the one fact. I can coach for a long period of time, but like the player's career is going to end. Your job as a coach is to maximize their ability, help their performance to change the life for them. Like, you know, some guys, like the financial windfall from those contracts changed their whole family. So like, or just their future. So why wouldn't make it all about them? And it's not about me, which is like with Zach, like, you know, those were his good years. And then, you know, unfortunately, I mean, and he did catch that damn ball. Like, you know, I mean, like, where
I remember watching that game.
He caught that damn ball, which they said he didn't, but I know he did because it's just Zach. Like, like in my time in Chicago, we didn't have really, you know, Martellus, obviously the first year is a very talented guy, but we didn't have, like, in the 3 years, like, you know, like, you know, I would say guys that you're talking about right now 10 years later, whereas in Oakland, the next stop I had, there's guys' names you heard a little bit more, but each one of those guys maximized their ability, and we did it together and loved working. I loved working with them. And when I had my second year, Logan Paulson was this guy who loves football. Like, he's upset. Like, he's one of my favorite. Well, I mean, I can't say I really don't have anyone I don't like, but he was one of those guys that just asked a million questions. He always wanted. He was so
Ohio State?
meticulous. UCLA. So, and then he was with Mike in Washington. Okay. And then they cut him, and he came to us for that year, and then he went back to the Niners.
I know Logan Paulson. Yeah.
Yeah. So he would ask so many questions, like, to me, because he knew how he needed to play. So it really helped me tighten, like, a lot of messaging, hearing what he had to say. Zach would tell me things that he was seeing, and I'm like, okay, you can either repeat.
Logan knew one speed.
Oh yeah, like, he's going to practice, like,
all in.
Well, the best was in, like, we were talking earlier about the Colts game in 2016, where there was, like, Zach. It was classic exchange with Zach and I, because he's like, at that point, like, that was 2 years together, and he's kind of like you're like extended family at that point. So you have weird interactions that no one will ever understand, but yet it makes sense to you. And Logan, that game had this. God, who was the defense? Who was the edge guy? He was in Green Bay. Like it was the Kevin Green Cobra Strike guy. I can't remember, but Logan had this like he had like this payback. He was like excited to
Not Clay.
No, it wasn't Clay. It was the other guy on the other edge, and he went to Indy, and I can't remember his name right now. But Logan was like, he got him like they had some blocks the year before when he was in Washington that he was like, or 2 years prior that he's like, I'm gonna get payback. So like these two guys were like, we're gonna make it physical. It was so funny just to hear them. Like every drive coming off, like you're like that motherfucker. I'm just like, whoa, what's going on out there? It seems like it's a little heated out there today, huh, guys? But those are the things I remember. Is like, and then after that, you know, you come back the next week, like going through the process, the after practice work, just you know, like the Chicago Times helped cement so much of what I knew to be true, and I was able to apply it. You know, and then when I was able to go to Oakland, then, you know, that was really like 3 years of, you know, between Jared Cook and Darren Waller, they led their team in receiving for 3 years and had to do everything.
Yeah,
you
had some dudes out there.
Oh, it was like all that was to be learned to be ready for those moments for that application. Cause like with Zach, he, you know, it's just, you go through time, like every relationship's different you have with guys because everyone's personality is different. There are different parts of their lives, different journeys. And it's like, but the guys that you like, you know, I could go a year without talking to them, but I never do. It's like a couple, you know, like maybe like a month or two. But like you saw him yesterday and hey, what's going on? And then here he's like some, you know, country music rock star now. And I'm like, I always, you know, just, you know, like you're going to be good at whatever you do. You just got that thing about you.
I talked to him last week. He's in Nashville quite a bit.
I don't know. I mean,
we're going to have him on here shortly.
Of course. Yeah. Like, and he'll just, would just be rock star one moment and probably own some of this. He's just one of those guys. And that's the journey.
I found it very interesting. I called him this morning. I thought it was going to be a quick call, but his kids were watching Peppa Pig and mine were watching Barbie. So we ended up talking for about an hour and a half. And I asked him, you know, what made Frank different, you know, or could you tell me a little bit about Frank from the player's perspective? And we talked for a long time and he never mentioned anything about what I pictured him answering the question with about, you know, being a tactician, about play calling, about anything, you know, of that nature. His main focus of the conversation was about relatability and relationships. He's like, Frank cares. He cares about relationships and he builds these relationships because like you mentioned before, every individual is different, right? And you got to, I'm not going to say cater, but you have to build rapport with all your players if you want to lead them. And he was mind blown about your ability to build relationships with everybody. And then another thing that he mentioned that stood out to me was your level of calmness. It could be winning, it could be losing, you know, whatever deficit or whatever high you're on, your demeanor was always the same. And you are a great sounding board and always the extremely good voice of reason, right? And I thought that was very powerful and cool to hear because you could be describing a leader in any high-performing organization, and those are the characteristics that you look for.
Well, it's just like when you're in an NFL game and everything's so heightened, like they got the emotion they're dealing with. They don't need me being like, what am I doing right now? Like, I'm not out there. I have to be like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, in my head, I'm playing the game with you, but from a non-emotional level. So I'm invested in everything you're doing. I'm watching, like I'm observing, seeing, are you executing the plan? I'm trying to watch the scheme too, trying to whatever investment in where I'm at in my career. But then the last thing I need to do is like, hey, why the hell did you do what I told you to do? And like, they'd be like, what's your problem? It's more of like, you're listening to like, okay, what happened? Why that, like at that moment, your ability to answer, like, Or they come back. He goes, "Did you see what happened there?" I'm like, "Yeah, he jumped inside at the last second." He goes, "Yeah, what should I have done there?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, attack an edge, and you can't slow down. Otherwise, you have to play fast with intent and violent intentions. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be attacking, and you have to all the training that goes in is about so you can play, all right, with the mindset of like, I am gonna fuck you up whether you like it or not.
Just play fast.
Play fast. And the minute you play slow or you're hesitant, to me,
up or get hurt.
Well, exactly. But then I always look at it as, to me, I failed as a coach for all of a sudden you slow down because you have to. You don't know what
you're doing. You're
correct.
Thinking.
You're thinking. Yeah. So like you got to train you the ability to react and process. So it's like, the only way it's like, okay, well, all right, I'm Frank Smith. I'm from the north side of Milwaukee. Like I walked down to college. I'm like the classic like overachiever from the suburbs. But like, so I am me. I have my existence. I have my story. Like I didn't know like different guys, but when I got to Miami, like, my friends were from different exposures, different experience. And you'd be like, okay, well, I don't understand. I didn't live that life, but I can listen and I can be like, whoa, okay, wow, that's very different. And the thing that always resonated to me was like, why are we born with 2 ears and one mouth? So listen twice as much as you talk, which I should practice what I preach sometimes, and socially. But it's more of like when I'm on the job, I need to know how you think. Okay, how do you think? How do you process information? Okay, what makes you think? What's your motivation? Like how do you work as a human? Like how do I help you? So like I'm constantly just watching, listening as I'm getting to know people. Well, what's the best way to get to know someone outside of work? Like go have dinner with them, go meet their family, go do whatever. Like invest, give. So that's the only way I know how to do it.
I am the biggest believer of that. I've always thought platoons and SEAL teams are made in the bar. You got to go to the bar or hang out together. I prefer the bar and have a couple beers, show some vulnerability and relatability, and build rapport. And lift up your skirt a little bit, let them know who you are, but then also get to know them, right, on a personal level. And if you have that group of guys and you can build those relationships with each individual, then have them build relationships together, because there's always little cliques, right? And get them to work together. As I was talking to Zach, I was talking about this as well. He's like, if you can form that bond, and that relatability and that rapport amongst a team, it really doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to be successful. Because I've also seen in the past where when I was an instructor, you see platoons come through and each individual is extremely talented. Like talent-wise, these guys have it in spades, but they don't get along, right? And there's a bunch of individuals. Then you see a less talented crew come through that jive together. They're really close at work, and they hang out outside of work, and they always outperform the more talented crew. 100%.
And then when you get the combination of
both
talent and both, that's where you have special performance.
Yep.
And there's just certain things that I always take as just what they are. And I'm always amazed when I hear other stories of guys' experiences. I'm kind of like, wait, people don't do this? It's like, so it's so innate. Like, I don't know any other way to do it. Like, I can't, well, first of all, I can't do what I got to do if I don't like and respect who I'm dealing with. Like, because if you don't love and obsessed with this, I took the job in New Orleans making $35,000, and I'm living there, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, never once when I started making $8,000 a year, I was like, maybe I can do something else. I was like, this is it. Like, this is everything, because football has given me everything, like everything in my life. Paid for my college, it's paying for my life. Like, it's given me my best friends and people I've known. Like, it's given me everything. So I give everything back to it, because it's like when people say they love football. Well, to love something, you sacrifice. Like, I sacrifice my time to give back to the game that's given me everything. So, like, if I can't help the guys be their best, I'm failing, and I think I stink, and I'm my own, and talking in my head when I don't help the guys perform. Like, I got to be better for them, and I want to protect them from the slings and arrows that come from the world that want to tear around. I'm like, no. Like, they did what they were asked to do. That's me for not. Like, we got to run better plays. We got to put better, like, they did what they were asked to do. We just ran like, because that's the like, they have to absorb what the fans in the world, but the reality is like, well, we had our hand in it too. That's not just them. Like we could have had better plays, we had better stuff, and that's
two-way street.
Exactly.
And when you peel back that onion, when you're building these relationships, then you don't know what someone has going on in their personal life, whether it be a divorce, their mom's sick, their kid's sick, whatever. And once you build that relationship with your, employees or coworkers, then they'll open up and they'll tell you. So then you can work around that problem and get to the performance part.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's my job when I walk into the room and I see him, and I can tell immediately something's off. Like I see the look, I know the look right now. Hey, okay, how do I bring you back to center? Hey, what's going on? Hey, is wife at home? Everything good? Okay, not doesn't want to talk about. Ooh, okay, how do I get up here? All right, do I got to be funny? All right, which I am not a funny person. I am I'm like a walking Seinfeld episode. So like observational humor, like I just comment on shit. So, but like if I try and go and be funny, I'm like I'm gonna fall on my face. So it's like, okay, how do I make him laugh? Okay, I got to tell a self-deprecating story about myself. Like normally that works out great. Yeah. Like you won't believe how stupid I was.
That's my default.
You won't believe. You want to hear stupid? Wait till you hear what I did last night. But it's like your job. Like okay, like. But many people don't look at it that way. Like they want to put the player on an island and be like, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with them. Yeah, I don't like. And I learned that my time in Chicago, like. Know them, help them. Like sometimes they can't help themselves, so it's your job to like.
You're stuck with them regardless.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you might as well figure it out and try to figure out how to make him the best player.
Exactly.
Because you get, 16, 17, 18, 20 games. Like, it is what it is. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I got August, September, October, November, December, hopefully January into February together. Like you want the extra month of time. So if I can say like, okay. You are having a bad day and you're going to, have misplaced anger because of what's going on. Okay. If I can bring that in the volume of your stereo from 10 back down to 7, if I can be really on, I bring you from 10 back down to 3. Well, now maybe an interaction that you would have had with another coach, player, whatever like that, I can help diffuse it. So you're back to where you need to operate. Now I'm doing my job, but most people don't look at it that way. They were like, hey, I don't know what's wrong with him today. I don't know what's going on. It's like, hey, dude, it's your fucking job to know what's going on with them and how to help them. And sometimes that's the secret to it all, is that you can help someone always get back to center where they are on the job. And I have a natural, like, football is meant to be fun. It's like that was the joy of my time when I was playing it. Like I loved it. The pain, the agony, like all the stuff that came with it, that was fun. So I like trying to create a world where guys love coming to work. Like pro football's hard, and it's even harder if they hate going to their job. So create an environment where they don't have to love everyone, but respect each other, and they love coming in there because your guys and you're working to create the environment where they love coming to work. And that's just been something I've adhered to. So when they walk in that position room and I was a position coach, it's like, like this is my, dojo. And like, because some days we'd have meetings where it wouldn't be meetings. We just have like, life
just
meetings.
Fuck around. Like, how we doing?
Yeah. Well, like that one day, like where I didn't, after practice, it was kind of, morale was low, the seas were rough, going on. And like literally, okay, we need to have some fun. And literally in 16, I think we won like one game in like 7 weeks. It was brutal. Really so the one day I was like, I heard a conversation because like it was like Ben Broniker went to Harvard. Logan's this kind of really, really, he has interesting topics. Zach is Zach. He's like just everything is cool. And then we had Dan Brown who just showed from the Ravens, and he was trying to feel it out. So I heard a weird conversation, so I played upon it. Like Logan was obsessed with these peptides and like, how they all worked. And we had these weird pictures of these animals that are all jacked. And like we were 45 minutes. Oh, and Greg Scruggs was there too. And we had this weird conversation for 45 minutes about nothing. But after yeah. Do you know he's the D-line coach at the University of Michigan?
Is he really?
Yeah. I talked to him, what was it? Maybe like a week or two ago.
I like that guy.
Dude, he's the best. Well, never changed.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's a walking energy bus. He still texts me or talks. Hey, coach, how you doing? I'm like, now I call him former player. I was like, good former player. How are you doing? I see you're making a name for yourself now, coaching big time defensive line football. Yeah, was at Wisconsin, now at Michigan.
So in Miami now.
Yeah. Well, the one
you guys are rolling hot.
Yeah, and that's been just awesome because I always knew. When I was in Chicago at the end, like I watched Mike from afar in San Francisco, what they did in Atlanta and what they were starting to build in San Francisco. Yeah. So I always respected. I knew his part in the plan with Kyle. So
how did he meet Kyle? Through Denver?
Did Mike?
Yeah. How did him and Kyle get together?
Mike was like a ball boy.
Yeah, I knew that.
And then I forget. It was like Mike was
because Kyle was in Houston whenever I was in Denver with Cubes.
Yep, and Mike was Kyle's assistant in Houston.
Okay.
And they got connected through the ball boy thing from his dad and everything.
Gotcha.
So him and Kyle known each other for forever.
Forever. Gotcha.
And but then when I was in Oakland, we have the same agent, and he lived in Danville or in Alamo, right, like 15 minutes from me, and Mike was in South Bay, and our agent had a barbecue, and the two of us were there, just our families.
Sure.
And I was like, interesting. So I didn't know him at all. I just knew his work. So it was a very awkward first meeting. We kind of talked and then went afar. And then Mike said, he goes, I kind of kept an eye on you. And all of a sudden I was like, all right, I didn't know who that tight end room was. And all of a sudden now I know who Darren Waller is and Foster. He's like, your resume from afar spoke for itself. Cause like that was Jared's first Pro Bowl in our first year, and then Darren turned into Darren, foster development. Yeah. Then I went to the Chargers thinking Mike was going to be the coordinator, and then he got blocked and it didn't work out. And then the next year when he got the head job at Miami, like he wanted me to be the coordinator because he wanted someone like him that wasn't just one specific, like just a quarterback guy. He's like, you did the line and the tight end, you had to cross or different perspective to offensive football, kind of like I did with a run game background.
He needed a run game background.
Yeah, and that's where
most of those guys do. I mean,
it's the core principle to the system.
Yes, and they need somebody that he can count on to be like, hey, I need a run.
Yeah,
give me a run.
And more of like the way we operate. But Mike was like Kyle's run game guy, so like he
gets it.
He did, but he has a unique perspective because he's a wide receiver who went into the O-line world and learned it. So he took a pass game vantage point to the run game. So like that's why you hear some of our run calls, you'd say that sounds like a pass play. It's because they understand like wide receivers with everything you ask them to do, you need to tag things.
Can we have an example?
Oh, it's I can't give up the vernacular, but essentially we have tagging terms to tell guys where to line up, and then okay, who am I blocking outside of the secondary? Okay, it's telling me to block.
Can you give me an example at dinner?
Oh, absolutely. Right. But like,
I think it's hard as a play caller to be fully invested in both though, and call both, if that makes sense.
But passing and run.
All those guys, and so it's a very unique perspective because all those guys in Washington, when they all got together, they all were young and they learned.
Sean, him,
they all are
Kyle.
They all are very
versed in run and pass
because you have to accurately be able to build. You need to know the run to then build the play pass to build.
Yeah, your passes and stuff have to come off the run game.
And to know why.
Yes.
To know the why to it all, because otherwise you're just,
who you setting up.
Well, it's like Battleship otherwise. Hey, B6, hit. Yes, I knew it.
Yep.
B3, who moved the ship?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like as opposed to like, no, you're working an attack of the defense as opposed to calling plays. And so Mike is very unique in that. I know Kyle, Sean, Matt, they're all like very similar.
Yeah.
So Mike, the build starts with the run game and it goes into the play action passing game, into the movements and into the drop back. It's very calculated and there's a purpose. And there's a why to everything we do. So for me from afar, when I was able to link up with him, it was really like confirmation of a lot of parts of football that I believed in. It's about players. We're about putting players in positions to be successful through a system of football. Our system of football has answers, but has answers for players and their ability. Like we'll cater what we do. That's why I found like when you watch their system as they moved from Washington to Cleveland to Atlanta to San Francisco, they evolved to what they had, to the players they had and what they did well.
Sure.
And that's why Matt Ryan was different than, Hoyer, Johnny Manziel, RG3, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo to, now to Tua. Like, your job is to see what the players do, what do they do well, and put in positions to do, but like through your system. Not all of a sudden going, well, that didn't work. Okay, what are we going to do now? Okay, well, that play worked. Let's run that. Well, they don't know that. Like, now you're asking them to relearn something as opposed to.
So how do you look at a system with like a Patrick Mahomes and be like, all right, he's mastered the system, but like he just kind of just overtakes it and just does whatever he wants?
Well, they have like.
Is that because his talent is so great?
Well, Andy, like, they do a great job because they really do have, like, they have their system that which they run. Now, his ability to create after the initial play,
I thought they did a great job this year of saying, "Hey, we need less out of you, Patrick. Get back to the system, get the ball gone, let our defense play well, and let's get to the fourth quarter."
It's kind of like I've kind of always felt like their ability to have a second play when it breaks down to play,
Sure.
They always have been so good, and they were so dynamic and explosive.
Yep.
The play breaks down, next thing you know, he can launch it, and they're
all good.
But Andy still adheres to the old school West Coast principles. You
absolutely.
Can see him.
Yeah, you see him.
And they know who they are, and they do a great job of running their plays. And then you can see each week they have their game plan plays they do, but they
typically start games like that.
Yeah, and
they stay on course. But I thought this year, like, just because they didn't have the offensive firepower, that they were like, hey, let's literally stay on concept, get the ball out. Patrick, don't do anything till we get to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I have all, like, for them being in division with them for 4 years, like, we saw them a lot, and then to know how they played, and then they're ever evolving to their people. And like, you could hear from them when we played them in Frankfurt in season, they weren't in a time where they were feeling they weren't catching their rhythm, but yet they find the one thing they do is they find a way to win, and they know the formula. And, the minute you think that, hey, this might be they just play good team football because of, they adhere to their program.
They've got Andy, they've got Spags, they've got Patrick, they've got some, and their defense has some dudes too.
They were excellent communicators. They did a really, really good job this year overall. I mean, I was actually going to the Super Bowl. I went to the game and actually in Vegas, and it was fun to watch because like, the one thing I didn't realize is the Super Bowl when you actually go as a fan, like the gaps of the commercials, because you're watching at home, you're
so
like,
long.
They're so long, and you're just going like, well, note to self: long commercial breaks. Be ready to if you ever make it to the game.
A lot of talking.
Exactly, and then but. You could see what was going on with them, and just they're just. I mean, I remember when we were in LA and we had them in 21. We beat them the first game in Arrowhead, and the second game we got down the wire, and all of a sudden at the end, Patrick and Kelsey just connected and they beat us, and you're just like, well, that stinks. But it's just like it's like, well, that wasn't how this was supposed to go. This is supposed to be our epic win.
What's that relationship like with the receiver? Just having a go-to guy that is going to work back towards the ball and or find you and just make it happen.
I mean, you're just on a wavelength.
Yeah.
You know exactly where they're going to be. You know exactly where the soft spot is. They know where the soft spot is. And I think it's more than anything, like, that you can chuck it up, and like the worst thing that's going to happen is it's incomplete.
Yeah.
They're not going to screw you over. Mm-hmm. They're going to knock it down, or they're going to catch it, or they're going to fight for the ball. Mm-hmm. But there's very few. I mean, there's a handful of guys out there. It's probably more so now, but they just, like he was talking about it earlier, like Zach just had this feel for space.
Yeah.
And I think whenever you watch Patrick and Travis, like, sometimes like watching him, like, he didn't even try to run a route. He literally just stops and just finds different space.
Mm-hmm. His spatial, I mean, it's the instincts and feel that you have as a player, just as you make years of experience, you know what the play's intent is, you know the timing to it, and you just know, okay. But that's where, but
he's been in that system for so long. They've both been in that system for so long, so they've mastered it. So,
but that was where like Tom and Gronk had the same rapport. Yep. Like when Drew was real, like especially like tight ends in general, because you know it's a big catch radius target. So it's just you have a comfort level because you just know I can put it up, and I got this 6'5" guy who's gonna go get it, or 6'3", whatever. Like they have big radius to go make you right.
Even when you let it go and it's a little bit high, like they can still climb the ladder and like get it.
And that was like Jimmy Graham and Drew in those years I was there. Like you just
and you can't hit them anymore either. So they're not worried about getting absolutely destroyed or smoked over the middle. It's just it's a different game, but it doesn't take away from how good they are.
Yeah, so that's the fun part of the league. It's ever changing, and you're always having to evolve to the needs of the moment, or what do you think the trends are going to be going, so you can be ahead of the curve. But I mean, ultimately, it goes down to, do you have a team that understands the intent, understands what you're trying to do, getting a group of guys to come together for 5 to 6 months and know that the process is going to be there's no quick way to success. So it's about putting the right guys together and building relationships where they're going to trust you, and you're not putting yourself or them in situations where they can't be at their best. And if you did as a coach that wasn't the best stuff we could do, you own it. And you tell them like, yeah, we got to be better for you guys.
Offense was pretty electric this year. I'm sure you guys are going to be electric in this next year. Had a few head coaching interviews.
Yeah, 2.
Different, fun, like it.
It's a very – well, that was – I mean, I got into coaching to be the head coach at Miami University. That's why I got it. I wanted to give back to the program that gave me so much.
Yeah.
And I, really figured myself out in college of like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And then as I transitioned into the NFL, I was like, and I get into it. I'm like, because initially I went in the NFL to like learn the ball and go down and, go back to college because just that's what I knew. And the longer I was in the NFL, I was kind of like, wow, I think I could do this. And then started to go like, I think I want to be I'd like to be a head coach at this level. And now when you're so close to your dreams, and then there's 32 of these teams in the world, I mean, it's extremely humbling. Like you're like, wow, I'm right there, and some teams want to talk to you about it, and it's just a different deal where you just go through it, and in your head you kind of wonder what it's going to be, and after you go through it, you're like, oh, okay, now I understand a little bit, because it's just different. Like your whole day as a coach, a position coach, coordinator, you're talking football. It's all football, all football, all football with football people. The minute you're trying to now talk to teams that want to employ you to run their program, well, they're not
football people.
Well, you can talk in a way that maybe you think like they don't. So you have to be very like, okay, how do I take, like I told some guys, how do I take my life's work and summarize it in an hour or in 120 minutes? Yeah. Because that's all the time you have in the first interview. And so that's what you have to realize. But it was cool. I can't say like hopeful that maybe that was only as high as I'll ever get. I don't know. You just don't know what it is. So my goal is to make sure that we continue to be successful. Maybe
you'll be impressive. I mean, 1 of 32 in the world. I mean, it's not like you're the CEO of a company. It's not like you're owning a business. I mean, 1 of 32, and they're not making any more. That is the epitome of impressive, if you ask me. And as far as leadership goes, as your life experience, like I'm just thankful to be your friend and in a room with you. Yeah,
likewise,
it was impressive.
And it's like I always looked at it. It's like, okay, through all this, there's some guys who get into coaching now, especially you can be very financially successful. It's like, the day I die will be the summary of it. I hope that the guys that you lived your life with can all get together, and the ones that are still alive that can be like, wow, like. They get together and they all can have the shared experience, especially the players. Like, because that was something I realized the other, like maybe like a year or two. Man, it would be really cool to like, but then talk about like self-serving for yourself. I like to have a party of all my former players get together and like we can all hang out. Like, no, only the guys I coach though. And like you start realizing like that would be that's 15 years I've been in the NFL now. And I started, when I got in the NFL, my roommate started 8 years in the NFL from when he was a rookie. And when I got in the NFL, I told him I needed to do 16 to make, I need 2 years for every his one playing. And then that maybe would even out. And we were laughing the other day.
You're there.
I'm right there, 16. Yeah. And then at that point, I'm like, all right, I did it. Go fuck yourself. I told you.
No, you'll be a lifer. You're going to be in it for like 30 or 40. You're not going anywhere.
Well, I did realize the other day, it's like, I'll do it. You'll do it to, you're adding value to people's lives and you can contribute. But at some point, like, like to coach till you're like 70 or 60, like, I'll do it once I'm good enough. Like, I don't, like, I wear the same fucking clothes. I drive a Ford Explorer. Like, I don't need anything. Like, I like get provided to my family.
Those Jordans aren't cheap.
Actually, they were no guy. So, but like to be able to be like my kids, because so much of my sacrifice for my dream came at my time. So, like,
sure.
Be able to, if you're successful, to be able to be done and have time to get back to my kids and their kids.
Absolutely.
So I can run their kids to soccer or whatever the hell everyone else does while I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to come up with a yard.
Be an Uber driver.
Mm-hmm. That side hustle in Lauderdale right now, that'd be real. Spring break.
You just have a little trouble there, my man.
Could you imagine, like, all of a sudden you're like picking people up, and all of a sudden I pick up like, one of the players. What are you doing? I'm like, hey man, do you know how much money you can make a spring break on this extra deal? It's made $300 tonight shuffling you guys around town.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in town. Really appreciate you being on the podcast. Looking forward to good steak dinner, having a couple cocktails, and continuing this bullshit session. So next to you, I got you a little gift. Nice. I get everyone that comes on. It's our mug.
My skin color. There you go.
it's our AM coffee mug, but it's also good for beer and cocktails and whatever else. So
it's any liquid of choice.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We wish you guys the best luck this year.
I was hoping that have like your guys like faces right there. That would have been even.
I mean, we could make that happen.
That would be fantastic. Like just every sip is like I'm just looking up right at
It's gonna be outwards, facing towards the camera when you're up in the booth.
Yeah,
but me and Jay just
or it'd be like Jay's looking at me while I drink, and you're on the outside mean mugging.
I will make one of those for you.
It would be, you're staring out there, and then Jay's looking right up at me, like
judging. Judging.
All right, this one was a long one.
This is good. I love it.
That was a good one. Frank, thanks for coming on. Offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, future NFL coach of some team in the NFL in the next couple of years. Guarantee that. Mm-hmm. Wish you guys the best of luck. Hopefully next year you can play in colder climates.
Yeah. Well, I've already done the Canada game in Winnipeg, so I think that's about the level we'll get.
Exactly.
On the 80-yard field.
All right, let's go get some food, guys.
All right. Cool.
Right on.
Thanks, man.